Good morning, everyone, dear colleagues, dear friends, dear guests from the region, Southeast Mediterranean region. We are happy to have you in this webinar, which is part of the series of webinar we organized in subjects related to skills, labor market, market intelligence, and this time the subject is pathways for vocational education in higher education. We have some guests who specialize in the matter and who are going to give us their insights. But before that, I would like to leave the floor to my colleague Cristiana Burzio, who is leading the Skills Lab network of experts of ETF. Cristiana, I pass the floor to you.
Many thanks, Najib. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Very nice to see you. Hope some more participants will be joining in a few minutes. I'm Cristiana. I work in ETF and coordinating the activities of the Skills Lab network. The Skills Lab network was launched in 2021 to create a platform of researchers in the field of skills demand and the skills anticipation, and with the objective to look together how skills are changing. We have now nearly more than 400 members in the network from the partner countries where the ETF works, from the member states of the EU, as well as per countries. In the framework of this network, around the topics of skills demand, we organize thematic webinars, online peer learning, peer visits, call for research proposals, and as well a live event once per year. We just had one in October, focusing on the colors of the economy, which was held in Torino, where we looked at 7 colors in particular: green, we will focus on circular, blue economy, silver, white, orange, gold, and yellow. The webinar today is part of the activities, the regional activities that we organize regularly with the network members. We will focus today for the South and Eastern Mediterranean region on vocational education pathways. I give you briefly an overview of the agenda. We will start with an introduction to the topic by my ETF colleague Abdelaziz Jawani. Then we will have the opportunity to hear from speakers from U4M and UNIMED about their perspective on opportunities and challenges for how to improve pathways from vocational education to higher education. And last but not least, we will have the possibility to hear about the experience of Morocco with current policies and measures in the field. There will be presentations, but throughout the discussion, we will have slots to interact with speakers. So you can pose your questions either using the chat box available in Zoom, or using the button with the raise your hand during the question and answers, because the idea is not only to hear about these presentations, but to have an exchange with the members. So it will be, we are welcoming most interaction during the session. Now I pass the floor back to Najib for presenting the first speaker.
Thanks, Cristiana. Indeed, we are expecting insightful presentations, but also insightful interaction from our hosts and our guests, So expect questions and also to challenge the speakers. So straight on, I will hand on the floor to Aziz Jawani, who will give an overview about the subject matter, especially current activities and how to ease pathways from TVET to higher education. Aziz, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Najib. Good morning, everyone. Let me first join my colleague Cristiana to welcome you and to thank you a lot for joining us in a Monday morning. to discuss this important and persistent topic of bridging VET and higher education systems. So the objective of my short presentation is to set the scene of today's topic by highlighting the presentation. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, Aziz, we can see it. It was shared.
Perfect. So I was saying that my presentation is just to set the scene by highlighting some key facts about the region first, and then the broader context in which we are operating. Our distinguished speakers will certainly develop further. And then at the end, I will propose some guiding questions to frame our exchange today. Slide, please. So one undeniable fact is that the change remains the only constant in today's world. So and this change is profound and not, yes, this one, and not confined to specific sectors. It goes across the entire socioeconomic sectors and impact every aspect of the economy. So both technological sectors such as digitalization, artificial intelligence, automation, as well as non-technological sectors such as climate change, demographic shifts, migration, and geopolitical uncertainty. So are profound transformation. And then, of course, by extension, these changes are also transforming jobs and skills needs. This means that everyone from new students to workers, even experienced workers, would need updated skills. Slide, please. Another fact is that the labor market in the South Mediterranean region is marked, as you all know, certainly, marked by first high unemployment, particularly among youth, in addition, of course, of the high inactivity rates in the region, persistent skills match. You know, employers are struggling to find workers with the skills they need, while many graduates are unable to secure jobs aligned with the qualifications. And in the region, you can find really all kinds of mismatches, overqualification, underqualification, skills obsolescence, soft skills mismatch, geographical, sectorial mismatch, etc. And as you know, there are also very high rates of needs. More than the third of the region youth, 15-24, are not in education and training, nor in the labor market. The gender disparities is another. It's still the same slide, Eda, please. Now I am addressing the labor markets in the center of the slide. So I was saying also the gender gap, it's a characteristic also of the region in the sense that only one woman out of 4 is in the labor market, which make the region sadly marking a record, a third record, being the lowest labor market participation in the world. Adding to the complexity, the transition between TVET and higher education system are often disconnected, leaving learners without clear opportunities to advance or to adapt their skills over time. So the siloed system limits student mobility and skills progression, and so their employability. So in the meantime, most, I would say, of the TVET system focuses on equipping learner with entry-level skills for immediate job readiness, which may limit, of course, learners' ability to meet higher education entry requirements. Offering also limited progression pathways to higher education, and the governance, the multi-level and multi-stakeholders governance in TVET system remain very weak, especially in terms of private sector involvement, leading, of course, to all type of mismatch I mentioned. So, and on the other hand, the higher education system is primarily oriented toward academic qualification with limited integration of VET credentials, a strong emphasis on theoretical knowledge over practical skills building, and a minimal recognition of vocational pathways, creating, of course, barriers for students transitioning from TVET to higher education. Slide, please. So I believe it is quite obvious and clear that addressing these issues requires a coordinated effort. So TVET and higher education system cannot operate in isolation any longer. So the solution, in my opinion, lies in further coordination and collaboration between these two systems. So we need first to create pathways that allow learners to move easily between TVET and higher education, depending on their needs and career goals. So, for instance, a credit recognition framework to recognize VET credits in higher education. Here we have some good practices in Egypt. I wanted to mention, for instance, Egypt is establishing technological universities that are supposed to ease this transition from technical education to higher education. There is also the Baccalauréat Professionnel in the Maghreb countries, and other initiatives like Sector Skills Council also can ease this transition in Jordan, Egypt, and Morocco. Initiative, of course, that are quite limited and needs to be upscaled and generalized. The second policy proposals is the lifelong learning, of course. So education, in my opinion, needs to integrate these lifelong learning opportunities to ensure that individuals can continually upskill and reskill, establishing mechanism, for example, of recognition of prior learning, and embedding pathways in the two segments of education. Here also good practices are in Morocco, which is developing a lifelong learning vision and the related implementation tools and mechanism. And Sislasi will certainly address this initiative in his presentation. So, and finally, there is the lifelong career guidance and counseling. It is also essential to help students navigate these pathways and make informed decisions about their both education and career trajectories. Here also, Sylvia will develop the Jordanian case, I think. So I committed myself to just 3 general policy proposals, but I couldn't resist adding skills anticipation as a key point for also the harmonization of TVET and higher education system. To conclude, I believe by breaking down silos and creating integrated system, we can equip learners with the tool they need to thrive in a fast changing world and foster stronger alignment between education segment and labor market needs. Last slide, please. So here I am proposing some guiding question to frame and foster our exchange. So the first one is, what do you think are the biggest obstacles to aligning vet and higher education systems in our region, and how might we overcome them? The second one is how can we ensure that TVET and higher education pathways are accessible and appealing to young women and other underrepresented group, because this vulnerable population is also very important and very high in this sense. And at the end, a feature about governance that I mentioned in my presentation: what should social partners play in creating effective vet and higher education pathways, and how can we incentivize their involvement? Because I really believe that private sector is very important to overcome all these issues. So I believe that our speakers will come up with some answers to these questions, and we count on your active participation as well for further develop proposals and suggestions. Thank you very much for attention, and over to you, Najib.
Thank you very much, Aziz, and thank you for making it sharp on time. Just one remark concerning your brilliant intervention. There is the question of gender inclusion. So it goes really across the board, this question of the dynamics between higher education and vocational education. And also you mentioned, for example, the need issue, which always comes to the surface and tops up the agenda. And we can only say that needs issue is both a higher education and a vocational education issue, because people graduate between the age of, let's say, 20 and 24 from higher education. So needs issue is also an issue of both higher education and vocational education. And this is also something that can bridge the link between vet and higher education. Without waiting too much, I will give the floor to Giuseppe from Union for the Mediterranean. And especially because we are happy to have Giuseppe here, because the Union for Mediterranean have produced a remarkable work on strategy on developing new vocational pathways in higher education. So we are really looking forward to hearing what Giuseppe is going to say on this. So Giuseppe, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Najib, and good morning to everyone. It's really a pleasure to be presenting here some of our work that we are doing on this topic. First of all, because it's quite remarkable in our region that we do not have a more structured approach based on skills when it comes to higher education, to TVET, but education more horizontally. And second, because all of our work, we try always to make it compatible with the incredible work of ETF. And actually, in most of our studies, you tend to be part of the steering committees, part of the speakers. There is really this kind of interconnection between the intergovernmental dimension of the Union for the Mediterranean and the incredible technical work of the European Training Foundation. So thanks again for this very well-timed event and invitation. I'm not going to delve into details because I listened to the wonderful presentation of Aziz. So many of the points already they were mentioned, especially the points on youth unemployment, on the level of needs in the Mediterranean, which are unfortunately one of our structural challenges. I would like simply to put into context that this challenge of youth unemployment and the call to action of educational systems in our region needs to be weighted against another structural challenge, which is the need for having a just transition in the Mediterranean. Why am I putting into contrast these two different topics? No? Because you might say they are very different. Why youth unemployment and the just transition are connected? Well, first of all, because if we intervene on the knowledge, the skills, and the ability of action of our Mediterranean youth, then this is a policy level which is incredible, because our region has more than 30 million university students, and we did this calculation a few few years ago. Now it's exploded, I'm sure. There is a trend of growing trend of young people that are going to study in higher educational systems. And all this mass of young people, of this potential of youth, which is going to gather and be trained to this higher education universities, needs to gain the right skills that are needed for the just transition. So that from one side, we can offer knowledge and career path which are appropriate for the South Mediterranean, but the EU Mediterranean region in general. And on the other side, we have the human capacity, the human knowledge, which is able to implement the just transition. A very clear example, renewable energy or food security. If we do not train the next generation of people that know what to do, we cannot implement any just transition. And at the same time, this is the lack of skills in the right context is a blockage to hiring young people. According to 1/3 of the enterprise that have been pulled in the South Mediterranean countries. So if we work on interconnecting the education systems to make them based on knowledge and capacity building and the right skills, then we can support young people for finding a career. And on the other hand, we can have the human knowledge, the human capacity to implement the green transition, to make our country more resilient against climate change, to make them able really to take over the power of the green transition. So at the Union for the Mediterranean, what we're trying to do since the last few years is really to try to put the educational centers, the learning spaces of the Mediterranean at the center of all these transformations that need to happen in the Mediterranean, basically to offer careers, opportunity and skills to young people, and on the other side, to make them really the engine for transformation for the green, blue, the circular inclusive economies. We were listening before to the color economies, and the young people are those that can really transform the Mediterranean toward the color economies. What is the methodology that the Union for the Mediterranean has chosen is facilitating the dialogue between academia, the private sector, and government, the triple helix, by enlarging it also to civil society, which is crucial in the Mediterranean. We know the work of civil society, and the sustainable dimension, the green dimension, the SDGs. What have we learned during the last few years? First of all, that we need to invest in capacity building for youth in all educational institutions. That we need really to move from the simple triple helix approach of governments, business, and academia, but to make it as much as inclusive as possible. In the Mediterranean, we need to listen really to civil society. And the regional dialogue, it's an opportunity to discuss the regional priorities for youth and women in order to develop skills, particularly through this approach of having a sustainable collaboration between higher education from one side and vocational education and training to the others. And if we join this dialogue on the green economy, if we anchor it on the green economy, then we can kickstart the Mediterranean economy to put it into motion. So one first output of this approach was the publication of this study on a strategy for developing vocational pathways in higher education, where it was not so much important what had you studied before, but what were you learning, and making the skills useful for finding an opportunity and careers. This is the region in the world where we have one of the highest, if not the highest level of graduate unemployment in the world, which means that what we are learning in higher education institutions is not fit for purpose in many cases. By working on this interconnection of vocational education, vocational pathways, if we want, on higher education, then we can reverse the paradigm. We can promote lifelong learning and encourage upskilling and reskilling of adults. If we take this approach, we can address skill development to reduce the skill mismatch. We can work, for instance, on career guidance and entrepreneurship, which is very weak in many countries, or they are abandoned to themselves. We establish a career service inside a higher education institution, then we leave it alone and underfunded to work alone without the proper training and capacity building or the proper resources. But seriously, what we need to do more is encourage the collaboration between higher education institutions and the private sector. Then, as mentioned, if we use the green transition as a test case, we can really find the key for unlocking this concept. And I'm going to be much more clear on this. I mean, green skills. What we've been doing so far at the current level, after building the study, we started to advance on this, and we have developed two pathways. The first one is a study on green innovation, but I'm not going to delve into this because it's a pleasure to have Silvia also in this panel, which is the main author of the study, and some workshops also with ETF, you can see your logo over there, on how we can translate the concept of green skills into academic curricula to core. So we had the first common reflection on food systems, food security, what is the role of academia, of education, of research on sustainable food systems. And we put the parts of this quintuple helix across the board. So we had representatives of education and learning centers, we had chambers of commerce attending, we had civil society, we had business organization, and we reflected what are the skills missing, what does it mean in food systems to have green skills. And the same we did on energy security or renewable energy in Algeria. The output of this common reflection, and this is more interesting for you, was a publication which is coming out this week, actually, on the Union for the Mediterranean website. And we hope that this can be also useful for all of you, but it also can be the basis of this further discussion with ETF, which has tried to outline the just transition and green skills by putting it into a global macro perspective, but also giving some concrete examples, some entry points where we can really try to develop new models of skills, integrating into existing curriculum, into existing work, and to make it really central. You can see here a sneak peek, but I would like just to conclude because the time is rather short with 3 points. The second of which was already mentioned by Aziz, which is skills anticipation. This is one of the way which we need to work forward. The fact that we agree means that perhaps this is one of the main outcomes of this workshop. We need to work on skills anticipation, but we also need to strengthen our ability to have strategic foresight, which is very difficult and which requires really listening to businesses, to governments, to see what are the upcoming challenges, and then a final call to action, which is for all of our organization. We need to work to make our organization green, breaking down silos, having unified approach to sustainability. There should not be a green or a sustainable development unit or person charge, but it should be the priority of everyone. If we can work on this, if we can consider skills as part of the green transition, we can really make it just and to deliver for everyone. Thank you all for your time. I'm afraid I cannot hear you.
Yes. Sorry, my mic was off. Thank you very much. Of course, as you might, we can recognize that there is connection between what Aziz said and what you have also advanced, and we were giving concrete examples from the regions. At this juncture, we can open discussion with the audience. Of course, they can also take the floor with the microphone if they like, or they can write their questions or comments in the chat section. But maybe I will be the one launching the discussion in terms of question. I would like to ask Aziz. When we manage to have a higher education and vocational education talking to each other in a conference or in a seminar, we find that after at the end of the day, though their missions are different, they overlap on many issues and they meet in many issues. Can you focus, I mean, from your side, what are the main points where they can meet and work together and do things together?
Thank you. Can I answer now or?
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you for the question. So obviously, I know vet systems much more than higher education. So, but I know also that that their mission, in fact, it's not different, as you said. I think that they have the same mission, means that they need to prepare graduates for the labor market, but also for other for personal development, etc. So the mission for me is the same. The problem is in our region. They are clearly two different sectors, so they are not talking to each other. They are not collaborating, not as much as we hope, of course. And this because I think we always, you know, even our in ETF, we are of course focusing on vocational education and training. And when we do statistics, etc., you know, we do statistics about vet. And vet in general in the countries is understood like the vocational studies that are under the ministry in charge of vet. While we know that higher education also prepare for vocational, professional, technical education as well. So even the statistics are not reflecting because they are two different words in the country. So when you say, for example, an engineer is vet, is vocational, is TVET, is technical and vocational education, you know, they are not in our statistics. So because we consider, no, this is a higher education. So I think the main issue that I wanted and the main message I wanted to give in my presentation is that we need to integrate vocational education. The best way for me is that the education system is integrated in a way that they are collaborating and understanding they have the same objective in a given country. And it's for that also I mentioned the lifelong learning. I think the development of a lifelong learning vision in our countries in the South Mediterranean region is very, very important. Because when I am myself working in Morocco in this very interesting issue, and there you will realize, the country realize that it's very difficult to collaborate. You know, the institutional collaboration in the South Mediterranean countries is very difficult. So even in the education system means vet and higher education. So, but when you launch this type of initiatives, lifelong learning, a framework, a vision, or whatever, there we realize that we are not collaborating enough. And this, you know, this for me, at least to start thinking to this, it would be really the best way to do and to serve what the higher education and TVET are for, to serve the labor market and the personal and professional development of individuals.
Yes, I totally agree with you. This issue of collaboration. When I said getting them to talk to each other, I remember that in 2012 we managed to get higher education and vocational education to talking to each other in the same room, and the subject was quality assurance. So we managed to find, if you like, somehow a point where they can discuss something particular, because higher education. I mean, the common sense is that, or the common viewpoint is that higher education, it's for theoretical, scientific research, etc. And vocational education, as you mentioned in your presentation, it's job readiness, etc. But we also see that in higher education, there is vocational education, which is not called vocational education. You mentioned the case of engineers, but we can also talk about the case of what we call intermediary graduates, like technicians, DUT, BTS, etc., and even professional bachelors. I will give now straight the floor to Sylvia for her presentation. And Sylvia is from UNIMED. and we thank her for her time.
Thank you
Sylvia,
very much.
is yours.
Thank you very much, Najib. I hope you can see my screen, and I put it in full screen now. So it's a pleasure and honor for me to participate in this very interesting and relevant webinar. I work in UNIMED as project manager in 2013, and for those who don't know UNIMED, it's a network of universities from Mediterranean basin, from both shores of the Mediterranean basin, and within our network of universities, we work on employability entrepreneurship within a sub-network, which is coordinated by UNIMED, by the Lebanese University, launched in October 2018, which gathers different institutions from our network from different countries, mainly from North Africa and Middle East region and from Southern Europe. The main aim of the subnetwork is to map, to exchange, to provide capacity building activities and research opportunities, to network and to promote different topics among our network on different areas of expertise, on skills development, employment, the social role of university, entrepreneurship, green innovation, sustainable development, career guidance, vocational training, micro-credential, just to mention a few of the topics where we work. Why I say this? Because as a network of universities, so from higher education perspective, we have seen some different obstacles. Some of them have already mentioned by Aziz and by Giuseppe. First of all, there is a lack of a scarce dialogue between universities, vocational training center, and industries and private sector. So what we see is the importance to strengthen governance in the university field in order to encourage the accomplishment of the third mission. Somehow, when we talk about career guidance, we don't have career center in the university in a structured way, so they are not appearing in the organigram of the governance of the university, for example. Already has been said about the needs to anticipate skills, and I will say also to anticipate market expectation in order to provide small and medium enterprises with relevant tools to anticipate their needs. We also think that it's important to involve media, the role of media in the dissemination of existing content or services for employability of graduates and youth. So definitely communication role has an important role in the university field. And of course, internationalization. We know that in Europe, we have in the Erasmus Plus program also a key action about Erasmus Plus traineeship. And working with the Southern Mediterranean University, we believe that the internship, work experience, apprenticeships should be really integrated in their curriculum. And so why not also to enlarge this opportunity of Erasmus Plus traineeship for students of master and doctoral fields in the SEMED countries, so in the Southern Mediterranean countries. We have been talking also about the need of a better articulation of public policy on higher education vocational training. This means that we need to strengthen cooperation between relevant ministries, so not only Ministry of Higher Education or the Ministry of Vocational Training, but also other ministries that are in charge of different sectors that should dialogue and network together. We have already said about the needs to analyze what are the skills that are needed in the labor market. And for example, the role of the secretaries in labor market should be crucial in the university field. And also the revision on national qualification frameworks. Also, we have been heard Aziz about this. It's important to facilitate employment, competitiveness, and relation with the labor market, but also to access to higher education and TVET throughout the life. So definitely we need to address a fragmented issue. The Mediterranean region can count on many regional projects devoted to improvement, employability of young people, tackling higher education and TVET, but they are isolated, they are fragmented. So we need to encourage a more integrated, structured approach with all the actors involved in the chain of values, government, training organization, employers, donors, and targeting the governance. So we have to address the reforms that are in place in the different countries, trying to redefine the role and the mission of the actors in the different sectors and scaling up existing project initiatives. we believe as UNIMED that the role of UFM that are playing in this scenario is crucial, and we are very keen to collaborate with both UNO for Mediterranean and with European Training Foundation in this important mission. Going more in the details and more practical way, how UNIMED is supporting higher education institution and TVET in our cooperation in order to have a more flexible, inclusive, and sustainable learning opportunities. We have identified these three main areas: green in education, entrepreneurship, and career guidance and development support system review. So I will go very briefly to show you what we have done and what we are doing in these three main areas. Starting by green in education, Giuseppe already mentioned this study on green innovation and employability in the MED through the triple helix. It's a study that UNIMED has conducted, commissioned by the Union for Mediterranean, launched in February 2024 in three piloting countries: Tunisia, Jordan, and Italy. And it's a study that is being supported by the GIZ. We believe that this study it's really framed in a rationale that we all know the importance of the university and the higher education as a responsible actors in their societies, because they are directly involved in generating new knowledge, and because they teach and form young people to be leaders, entrepreneurs, scientists, professionals, definitely responsible citizens. So this study is framed within the SDG 4 from the SDGs. So to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. Already Giuseppe presented, which is the approach of the study, which is the triple helix model of innovation. So we mainly address these three main actors: governments, university field, and industry. So this model encourage the exchange and the dialogue among all these three main field and sector. What are the main objectives of this study? The study aimed to analyze and to evaluate strategies, policies, programs, and key projects in three pilot MED countries: Italy, Tunisia, and Jordan, to support the shift towards green, sustainable economic sector by increasing appropriate skills, updating curricula through linkage with private sector innovation technology transfer. And then also we tried to develop specific sets of recommendation at the national regional level for this green transition. How we worked: we have conducted desk research, a stakeholder map. We have conducted 30 interviews to different stakeholders from these three main sectors: academia, government, and industry. And we have also organized 3 roundtables, one in Rome, one in Amman, and in Tunis. And finally, we have conducted a SWOT analysis. All this work come up with some challenges that we have been able to identify, and with some key recommendations that I'm trying to, of course, sum up and to present it to you today. The main challenge is we observe a limited funding for research, a scarce collaboration between academia, industry, and governments, and probably mutual trust among all these areas. Brain drain, so we do not need to say more words about the brain drain issue. Mismatching qualification that do not correspond to the needs of enterprises and the weaknesses of the capacity of higher education public sector to absorb. The limited accountability somehow and autonomy in the higher education institution and research, and also a certain resistance to change in higher education teaching mechanism, and nevertheless the lack of networking and partnership among stakeholders. So what are the main recommendations that the study provided at the regional level? We suggest to create a regional platform for best innovation employability that could facilitating this networking among universities, starting, for example, from the 3 target countries, by sharing knowledge, good practices, and know-how on green transition. Setting up a network of Mediterranean incubators and startups that should be also envisioned. and adopting industrial doctorate, not only at the national level, but also at the regional level, and definitely continue with capacity building activities and training activities online and face-to-face. And why not also to organize every year or every 2 years a regional conference on green education in order to measure where we are on this topic about green transition. In addition to that, so to the green education, we also said that entrepreneurship is another key sector where we can promote TVET and higher education pathways. Within UNIMED, within our subnetwork on employability, we have been launched in 2018 this initiative, Startup Competition, where ATF is one of the main institutional partners, and we have received the institutional support and training from ATF in all the editions of the Startup Competition. We have been started in Italy, in Messina, in Sicily in 2018. We have organizing this competition among young entrepreneurs, students that present their business idea, their innovative ideas, encouraging social entrepreneurship, encouraging their curiosity and their ability to address social problems with innovation and with creativity. This is a collage of different editions that we have organized previous year in Jordan, in Granada, in Spain, and then also online during the COVID. And recently, our Startup competition took place in Istanbul, in Turkey, and we had, of course, the representative from the ATF, Simona Rinaldi, with us in the jury. We believe that this initiative is very important, relevant for engaging more and more youth and students to address social problems through social entrepreneurship. And last but not least, on career guidance, UNIMED, thanks to the ATF, was able to provide reviews on career guidance and development program. We supported ATF in this very relevant program in order to conduct career guidance in these 4 countries: Algeria, Jordan, Lebanon, and Tunisia. And the publication will be published soon, early next year. And this study, these reviews, were aimed to provide opportunities for the universities to review their career guidance, but also to have lifelong opportunities for their members, for the university, in order to know how to really orientate the students and the career center towards a better employment opportunities for their students. So definitely what emerged is that improved skills in review and policies and services are needed in this area of career guidance, employment, social inclusion, and youth sectors. Career guidance is a crucial role in the countries with jobless growth and limited decent work opportunities. Career education and guidance to reduce mismatch can increase a smooth transition to further learning and work, and research even shows better salaries. And of course, career guidance lies at the heart of lifelong life systems. Also, what emerged from these studies that career education and guidance can prevent dropouts, increase educational attainment, and increase learning motivation. So definitely we need to integrate career education and guidance in schools, in TVET, in universities, providing training for career guidance practitioners, tools and methodologies for guidance work to put in place, and also why not to introduce ICT tools for career guidance. So definitely this work has allowed UNIMED to stimulate in our members the importance to collaborate with TVET sector in this career guidance field. I will stop here my presentation in order to stay in the times constraint, but I'm available for any questions. These are our UNIMED webpage and all the social network. You can reach us and know more about our initiative. So definitely thank you again for these opportunities and for listening to me. So I'm ready for the questions. Thank you, and Najib, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylvia, for this very interesting presentation, and congratulations for the work you do at the Union for Mediterranean Universities. Of course, we wish you had more time to speak about what you are doing, but I can see so far that there are many issues which are really connected to our subject matter today, and you focused also on career guidance and lifelong learning, which are as the pillars of this strategy. I'm happy that in the audience we have representatives or guests from most of the Southeast Mediterranean countries. We have Syria, Tunisia, Lebanon, Morocco, Libya, and Egypt. And we have two comments in the chat. We have Maher Al-Rez, who says that the problem we face in Syria is that most of those enrolled in vocational education want to enroll in higher education to delay the enrollment in military service. So many of these graduates from higher education go either to immigrate or to work in academic or administrative work. And thus we lose them in the labor market as professionals. So Maher is asking, are there any recommendations to get out of this bottleneck in this dilemma? And very interesting, yes, question. And we have Abdulrahman bin Tahar from Morocco, who says, this is a comment for our reflection. The bridge between higher education and job market is career centers that should be an independent department in every single education institution. He means colleges and universities, because our students are graduates, I think he wants to say, and students are lost and no lighthouse to guide them. So he describes career centers as lighthouses. Yes. Would you like to react on this, Giuseppe, Aziz, or Sylvia?
Perhaps
I can start.
please.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
there was a bit of delay.
Go ahead, Giuseppe.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to comment that I'm seeing that why my presentation focused on the green skills part. There is a lot of discussion on the role of career centers. And to be honest, what I'm seeing in the region is that there is a structural need for support, both at national and regional level, because usually there is no lighthouse in the sense that we tend to create a career guidance center, and then basically we just leave it there. Said, okay, we did check mark. We have done this. It's part of our strategy for our university, for our center, to have a career center, and then it's left alone to its own devices. It's understaffed. It's overworked. There is no clear strategy, and then there is a work in piecemeal way. So everyone it's doing its own thing. It should be much more supported. This is clear, because often career guidance should happen even before a career is chosen. This is one of the issues in our region. Everybody's studying certain things which are not anymore the center. And of course, everyone should be free to study whatever they want, but many of them would like to have the additional information, the visibility to understand that a certain path, a certain career can pay much off in a better way. So for this, there is need for structural support. And I believe that regional dialogue here, as I mentioned, because there was never really an effort in regional way, unless I'm mistaken, look especially at Sylvia from Unimed, to put all this career centers in a peer learning way, in trying to learn from each other, in building a network where they can really get the best practices from each other, or even be encouraged from each other. Yes, we hear you, we have the same issues. This is what we did. This is how we contacted companies. It is how we developed a partnership that works for getting some funding. So this was maybe just a small point on one of the questions, but I've seen it. This is quite interesting for many colleagues. Thank you. Aziz, to you.
No, I wanted to maybe just to complete or to try to answer to Maher question, which is delicate question. because essentially, in my opinion, you know, in the countries when we have these pathways, this is mainly in Eastern Europe, for example, the TVET part of the education is very high. And we have this problem of, you know, even if some countries in SEMED, in Egypt, for example, we have these pathways also, this baccalaureate, professional in the Maghreb, etc. And it is considered as an easy way to transit to higher education. So it's true what Maher is saying, but my opinion is that we need, because when we say this approach of the learning centered of the learner, we need to have this learning centered approach. Means that we need to look first for the individual development, and then, so if when you close the system, of course you oblige the graduate of TVET to go to the labor market. But the reality, we know it. For reality, we know that there is a lot of mismatch. And because, as I said in my presentation, the transformation, the economic transformation is so rapid that the vets will not be able, at least initial vets will not be able to follow. So opening the system, adding upskilling and reskilling, short-term training, establishing pathways, recognition, prior learning, career guidance and counseling, all these elements that contribute to the integration of vocational education and higher education at the end will pay off. I am sure, because, as I said, the economy is really transforming very, very, very quickly. So the vet cannot answer only. So yes, it's true that this is a problem, that a lot of students, when there are pathways, they opt for vets just to ease their transition to higher education. But ultimately, even those who go abroad, I think this international mobility is also benefit for our partner countries, because there is always returnees. They will come back with more knowledge, with resources, etc. So I personally, of course, when we open, we have this issue, but I think that at the end, we will gain from opening and integrating the systems.
Thanks, Aziz and Giuseppe, for reacting to the comments of our participants. We have Iman Elwiz Ghani, one of the most loyal members of the Skills Lab network of experts, who wants to take the floor. She's from the University of Agadir, Morocco. Iman, the floor is yours. You can ask your question or comment.
Yes, thank you so much, Aziz. So I'm a professor in Ibn Zor University, based in Agadir, Morocco, and I am working on a research project with colleagues from the UK and Serbia with the European Training Foundation. So this is what I want to talk about, actually. First of all, I would like to thank all of the panelists, Aziz, Giuseppe, and Sylvia, for your presentations. Interesting ones, and I think that this is an important topic to discuss. What I want to comment about is something that all of you have mentioned as a key element for to ensure that youngsters transition to the labor market is done swiftly, which is ensuring there is a communication between the higher education system, TVET institutes, the industry, and also the government. This is important, and I want to mention the case of the research that we're working on with the European Training Foundation. It tackles skills gaps and skills mismatches in Morocco and Serbia. And as part of that research, we conducted a qualitative study in both countries, in which we talked to all of the employability stakeholders about what are the challenges that we face in order to, when we try to work on youth employability and women's employability in the region, but also what are the opportunities. And the thing that stood out to us throughout the research in both countries, actually, is the fact that everyone, there is this miscommunication that you can feel when talking to the different stakeholders. Basically, everyone is blaming everyone else for youth unemployment. It was really interesting because we know how many initiatives there are to gather these stakeholders around the same table to discuss the skills needed to transition to the labor market. So the efforts are there. We're trying to have everyone around the same table. So many initiatives, local ones, national ones, but also from the international cooperation institutions and international institutions like the UFM and UNIMED, among others, of course. But then again, there is always this, for instance, we're talking about the higher education institutes, and then they say that the public sector is not clear on their needs. Same for the government. The public sector, when you, the private sector, I mean, when you talk to the private sector representatives, then you have, and we have so many in here, and you have them say, okay, so our needs are not met through the education system in our country. There is no sufficient response from the institutions, the local institutions. So we have to train our new recruits. This is a vicious cycle. My question here, and I know all of you, because you mentioned that the communication between the stakeholders is capital to make it work. We know that there are so many initiatives. Where should we focus then? From your experience and expertise, how do you see that we should tackle this specific problem about the communication between the stakeholders? Thank you so much again for all of your presentations. And Aziz, thank you again.
Thank you, Iman.
Please, Iman, can you lower your hand? Yes.
Najib, can I add something?
Yes, of course, Sylvia. Yes. Please go ahead.
This is a very relevant question, very difficult one. I don't want to answer this, but I'm trying to maybe to provide some reflection because, as you mentioned, it's very difficult to communicate all these stakeholders. When we did the study on green innovation for UFM, we face challenges when discussing with all of these actors in the government or in the institution. What I can say is that I believe from my professional experience is that the key could be mutual trust, first of all. So try to trust each other regarding what they are doing, because somehow when we spoke with some institution, I mean higher education institution or enterprises or governments, the way but the employability problems of graduates is an issue of university. That is their problem. So we are there as enterprises, or we are there, we want graduates. So it's not an our issue. Or when we spoke with the university, they say, oh, okay, but we have very skilled graduates. So how it's possible that they are not in the labor market, they're not observed? So I think there is this kind of maybe mutual trust that should be more and more encouraged. And definitely, from my perspective and during my work in this field, I think it's also a matter of governance. So we need to work from the governance point of view. We need to structure and systematize all the dialogue among these stakeholders. When you have a career center, we always heard about all the fantastic work they are doing, the many projects they have, but then the people, the human resources, maybe they are doing this voluntarily based. This is not long sustainable for a long term. The people working in career center cannot for a long perspective work on a voluntary basis. So they need financial support. They need to be trained, first of all, and they need to have financial resources in order to have a clear work plan in career guidance, in entrepreneurship. So that's why I said it's a governance issue. So starting from the strategy from the university, but up on this from a strategy from the Ministry of Higher Education together with the other ministries. So again, from my point of view, mutual trust and governance are the main issue that should be addressed.
Thank you, Sylvia. Anything you have? We have still 3 minutes before the presentation of Mohammed Selassie. Iman is asking for the floor again. Yes, would you like to comment, Iman?
No, she's just.
She's just saying, okay.
Yes,
Aziz, yes, go ahead.
I wanted maybe if we have time I will not able to answer this question, but I think Mohammed Selassie, maybe there are other profiles in the room as Mohammed Selassie because he has always been in the crossroads of communication between different parts as a responsible of skills department in the National Confederation of Employers, and now he is really in the governance, let's say, in the Supreme Council of Education in Morocco, and maybe he can bring some element about communication of different stakeholders in this. Maybe, Selassie, if you feel to answer, or maybe you are addressing this in your presentation. I don't know.
What I suggest, Aziz, because we are almost good with time, is that we give the floor to Mohammed Selassie to start his presentation.
Okay.
And thanks for helping me with the introduction of Mohammed Selassie with his biography.
No, the introduction was just to contribute to answering the difficult question of Iman. Anyway.
But very helpful, very helpful indeed. So, see, Mohammed, the floor is yours. Yes, until 11:30.
Thank you, Najib. Thank you, Aziz. Je vais parler en français et si Najib s'est proposé pour faire la traduction simultanée. Donc, permettez-moi de
Avec grand plaisir, si Mohamed, des phrases courtes, comme ça,
des phrases courtes,
pas professionnel de la traduction.
Effectivement, je vais essayer de faire des phrases courtes, mais pour la présentation, je vais la dérouler en français et après, je te donnerai la parole pour pouvoir donner une synthèse, parce que ça sera difficile de faire des allers-retours. Alors, j'aimerais tout d'abord répondre à la question qui vient d'être posée, la problématique liée au continuum éducation, formation, emploi et comment ces interactions entre ces deux univers.
Donc, first of all, I would like to answer the question which was asked, which is the interaction between vocational education and higher education.
Alors, on est, tout le monde le sait, rentré dans un monde en mutation permanente et en accélération des facteurs de changement dont il est difficile de prévoir à court moyen terme, je dirais, les besoins du marché du travail.
So we are living in a world which is in constant change, and it is very difficult to predict the future of work and the labor market.
Donc, il est difficile aujourd'hui d'utiliser les mêmes approches qu'avant, où on avait les choses allaient plus lentement et on avait la capacité d'anticiper. L'anticipation aujourd'hui devient difficile et par conséquent, il faut faire appel à de nouveaux instruments.
So now we cannot use the same tools and the same approaches that we used to use before in order to predict the labor market.
Donc, il faudra imaginer une autre forme de dialogue qui est, en fait, se base sur des visions d'anticipation court terme et avec des instruments délivrés au secteur privé pour pouvoir anticiper ses besoins. Parce que, effectivement, Madame Iman, excusez-moi, professeur d'université d'Agadir, a bien raison de dire que même le secteur privé et le secteur productif ne sait pas ce qu'il a vraiment besoin. Et c'est normal, il ne sait pas et personne n'est capable de le faire. Peut-être les grandes entreprises qui ont bien outillé, mais les petites et moyennes entreprises sont perdues.
Sometimes even the private sector cannot predict, cannot identify its need. And especially we're talking about SMEs, small and medium enterprises, maybe an exception for the big enterprises who have enough resources to identify the needs and the skills they need.
Donc, deux éléments importants pour que le dialogue puisse s'établir. et qu'il y ait une capacité de réponse du système d'éducation de formation aux besoins réels du marché de l'emploi.
We should establish a dialogue between education and the stakeholders, les parties prenantes, c'est ça?
C'est ça,
In
les parties
order,
prenantes, les acteurs du marché du travail en général.
yes, and all the stakeholders of the labor market.
Et ce sont deux choses. D'abord, des mécanismes de prospective capables d'assurer de la gestion prévisionnelle des emplois et des compétences avec une segmentation fine à l'échelle des territoires et à l'échelle des branches.
So,
C'est un travail qui est
stakeholders should
considérable.
be able to forecast the needs of the labor market. C'était quoi la dernière partie, c'est Mohamed?
Selon effectivement une segmentation fine du marché
Yes,
du travail.
and we will do this through segmentation of skills and sectors.
Et avec effectivement une prévision court terme, à 3 ans maximum.
Yes, with the short-term forecasting, maximum 3 years.
Et donc la capacité de traduire ces besoins dans un langage compris. Ça, c'est le deuxième élément. Un langage
And
qui est
these needs should be
compréhensible de part et
expressed in
d'autre.
a language which everyone can understand.
Et ce
Easy
langage,
language.
voilà, et ce langage, c'est les acquis d'apprentissage.
Pardon?
Ce langage, c'est l'acquis d'apprentissage. Se
And
fonde
this,
sur un acquis d'apprentissage qui est une traduction de l'acquis professionnel.
yes, and the skills learned in apprenticeship or learning. C'est pas l'apprentissage, in learning.
Learning outcomes. C'est-à-dire que
Yes, the learning outcomes. We focus on the learning outcomes.
on change en fait on adopte un langage commun qui
Yeah, we
est
should adopt a common
l'acquis
language.
d'apprentissage,
Yes, common. Yeah,
qui traduit exactement et qui est capable d'être assimilé,
which
d'accord, par
which
le
can be
système
understood
d'éducation
by
de formation
everyone.
immédiatement.
Yes, which can be understood by everyone and every stakeholder. Yeah.
Et enfin, la capacité de rendre ce système agile par la mise en place d'un système d'apprentissage tout le long de la vie qui permet de s'adapter en continu par rapport aux changements qui s'opèrent dans son environnement.
And last is to make this system agile, easy to use, so that everyone can make use of it.
Le recours à l'apprentissage tout le long de la vie, ça c'est un élément important et fondamental.
And reliance on lifelong learning.
Voilà, si je peux me permettre une réponse et qui introduit finalement la présentation que je vais faire tout de suite.
Okay, merci.
Alors sans tarder, je vais donc présenter, je ne sais pas si je peux avoir la main pour présenter, oui, je peux. Donc,
Et là, we can't see the presentation. Je pense qu'il faut un peu de temps. Ah oui, voilà, ça arrive. Merci. Oui.
merci beaucoup. Alors ce que j'ai, la présentation ici, alors je vais faire la présentation et après, je vous donne la parole pour la résumer, si vous êtes d'accord.
Très bien. Donc, je pense que ça sera mieux.
Oui.
Donc, vous finissez
Compte tenu du
la
temps.
présentation. Moi, je vais faire un petit résumé en anglais. Merci.
D'accord. Cette présentation, en fait, vise à essayer d'analyser l'opportunité et la faisabilité d'intégration, en fait, des pratiques de la formation professionnelle, de la formation technique professionnelle au sens général, telle que aujourd'hui toutes ces pratiques sont conçues et mises en œuvre dans le système d'enseignement, dans le sous-système d'éducation supérieure. Alors, je présente le cas du Royaume du Maroc pour comprendre d'abord quels sont les obstacles qui sont devant je dirais cette idée, qui est une bonne idée, mais qui malheureusement se heurte à un certain nombre de difficultés. Et donc ensuite, quelle est la réponse du Royaume du Maroc effectivement face à ces difficultés, puisqu'il faut effectivement dépasser cette problématique compte tenu des enjeux. Alors, tout simplement, la première chose, c'est donner un certain nombre d'éléments, un aspect quantitatif de la situation. Alors, si on compare en fait l'enseignement supérieur et la formation professionnelle du point de vue quantitatif, on voit nous avons une situation d'une fréquentation en triangle inversé. L'enseignement supérieur, aujourd'hui, c'est en 2023, mais j'ai actualisé les chiffres, aujourd'hui, c'est à peu près 1 300 000 étudiants dans l'enseignement supérieur. Donc 15% dans ce qu'on appelle des filières professionnalisantes, c'est-à-dire des filières qui conduisent effectivement à former sur des métiers. Et 85% sont des étudiants dans des filières à accès ouvert. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on appelle accès ouvert? C'est précisément tout ce qui est, je dirais, des formations disciplinaires. On va trouver effectivement les humanités, le juridique, la sociologie, toutes les disciplines. Donc, si vous voulez, sont pas nécessairement sont des formations qui sont avisées, je dirais, liées à la connaissance dans un domaine spécifique et qui finalement concentrent l'essentiel en fait des étudiants. Donc, si vous voulez, cette question va adresser les 15% d'étudiants qui sont dans les filières professionnalisantes. Alors, la situation actuelle est escalée parce qu'effectivement, nous avons une croissance énorme de l'enseignement supérieur. Ce chiffre-là, entre 2 années, entre 2023 et 2024, il a cru de 20%, puisqu'on a eu presque 300 000 inscrits à la dernière rentrée. Donc, l'enseignement supérieur est finalement victime de son succès, mais dans ce succès, finalement, subi parce que le système fonctionne en silo et n'ouvre pas effectivement des passerelles vers des niveaux basses et moyennes qualifications. Peut-être sauf effectivement au niveau du baccalauréat qui permet d'orienter vers des formations post-supérieures, post-secondaires en formation professionnelle. Donc, quant à la formation professionnelle, elle regroupe 660 000 stagiaires, dont la majorité forme à des niveaux de qualification moyen intermédiaire, technicien supérieur, technicien, ceux qui sont au niveau bac et bac plus 2. Donc, on voit, et le reste des basses qualifications reste des constituants qui restent faibles, et donc on voit qu'on a un système en triangle inversé qui malheureusement, à l'opposé, si je peux le schématiser, aux besoins du marché du travail. Cette situation, elle est certainement la même dans beaucoup de pays de la région. Alors, ça produit effectivement beaucoup de déperdictions, hein, un nombre de déperdictions énorme. Il y a à peu près 50%, je dirais, qui quittent sans obtenir une certification, une qualification. Et donc, cette situation également, par manque de fréquentation dans les basses et moyennes qualifications, produit beaucoup d'informels, faible productivité, de l'inactivité, quelques chiffres. Donc, sur ce système, on a à peu près 200 000 diplômés seulement de l'enseignement supérieur et à peu près autant de la formation professionnelle. Le marché du travail, malheureusement, enregistre 50% des actifs qui sont sans diplôme. On a un taux d'activité qui ne cesse de baisser et donc l'informel qui regroupe l'essentiel de l'activité sur le marché du travail et 2 millions de jeunes qui sont sans emploi et ni en emploi ni en formation. Et donc, cette situation, d'ailleurs, elle traduit le profil du marché de travail tel que le présente ce schéma-là. On voit bien que sur le graphique que vous voyez à gauche, que les actifs du diplôme du niveau supérieur ne représentent que 16%, alors que le graphique à droite montre que c'est la fréquentation la plus importante dans le système d'éducation formation. Donc, il y a, je dirais, cette situation est totalement contradictoire compte tenu, je dirais, des besoins et des possibilités d'insertion. Donc, la question, ça, sur le plan simplement quantitatif. Sur les aspects qualitatifs, on peut dire que le système d'éducation et de formation, globalement, est un système non unifié, qui est fragmenté et qui part en silo, ce qui explique la situation actuelle. Il y a une absence totale de passerelle entre l'enseignement général obligatoire et la formation professionnelle, à part quelques rares initiatives qui ont été lancées récemment, comme le parcours du collège professionnel, mais ça reste embryonnaire. Et donc ces deux systèmes ne communiquent absolument pas, à l'exception effectivement de la passerelle qui est au niveau 4 du cadre national de certification, qui est le niveau baccalauréat. Une gouvernance qui est dépourvue des fonctions de planification et de régulation. Et donc, la planification, c'est effectivement ce qu'on évoquait tout à l'heure, cette capacité, effectivement, à donner les moyens de prescrire les besoins je dirais, à court terme et dans un langage qui est compréhensible par les acteurs du système d'éducation et de formation. Et régulation, c'est-à-dire que des certifications qui traduisent une véritable une demande et donc la mise en place d'un cadre national de certification qui permet de réguler. Et donc, effectivement, les personnes, certains intervenants l'ont souligné tout à l'heure, une absence d'un système d'orientation et d'information intégré qui permet d'orienter effectivement et de gérer les flux vers les besoins réels et les opportunités réelles qui est offerte aux apprenants. Et puis, effectivement, un système national de certification articulé sur un cadre national de certification qui est non opérationnel. Au niveau de l'enseignement supérieur, nous avons effectivement un système qui fonctionne selon des normes de formation qui sont aujourd'hui établies, notamment par l'Agence nationale d'évaluation et de l'assurance qualité. Mais cependant, ces acquis d'apprentissage, précisément ces langages qui doivent être l'élément de communication en fait, compréhensible par les deux parties, c'est-à-dire la demande et l'offre, malheureusement, aujourd'hui, il est défini uniquement et exclusivement par l'enseignant qui est en charge de la filière. Si bien qu'on a autant de certifications que pour un même métier, pour la même filière. Et donc, ça crée effectivement énormément de confusion, au-delà du fait qu'effectivement, ces acquis d'apprentissage ne correspondent pas nécessairement aux besoins du marché du travail. Donc, on a dans les faits une approche classique de l'enseignement, des matières disciplinaires, quand on voit de l'enseignement des filières professionnalisantes, compte tenu du poids considérable des enseignants dans la gouvernance de l'université, qui est difficile de changer, parce qu'il y a une certaine culture qui est là, qui donne effectivement, en tant qu'ancien administrateur de l'ANEA, j'ai essayé de faire promouvoir cette idée, mais on voit qu'il y a une certaine culture qu'il va falloir dépasser et une plus grande collaboration avec je dirais, le marché du travail, et notamment, effectivement, en l'absence de mécanismes de planification, je comprends que cette situation perdure. Au niveau de la formation professionnelle, on a des normes de formation qui sont bien fondées sur une approche par compétence, donc elle est basée sur l'acquis d'apprentissage. Mais malheureusement, elle est peu ou partiellement appliquée dans la pratique, et notamment dans la formation professionnelle publique. Donc, c'est un système davantage piloté par l'offre, disponibilité pédagogique, que par la demande sociale ou économique. On le voit d'ailleurs traduit dans le schéma que j'ai présenté en tout premier. Alors, pour répondre à cette question, le Royaume du Maroc a entrepris une transformation en profondeur. L'a approché, je dirais, par sous-système, la situation semble effectivement très, très compliquée à être mise en œuvre à travers les différentes tentatives de réforme qui ont échoué. Et depuis 2015, le Maroc a entrepris cette transformation avec une approche qui cherche à unifier le système d'abord à travers effectivement un dispositif, à travers un système national de certification qui serait effectivement fondé sur un modèle pédagogique axé sur les acquis d'apprentissage et qui permettrait aux différents sous-systèmes de pouvoir planifier de la même manière, de recourir à des normes de formation identiques, d'évaluer les acquis d'apprentissage et de certifier. Tout cela au service d'un objectif qui est la mise en place d'un système d'apprentissage tout le long de l'année. Alors, comment on a imaginé cette situation? Cette situation a été imaginée avec la mise en place de lois programmatiques, qui est une loi qui a été votée en 2019 et qui a été publiée en 2019 et qui est en cours de mise en œuvre. Et le Conseil supérieur de l'éducation, dans lequel actuellement je suis actif, veille à la mise en place de cette loi programmatique. Elle prévoit effectivement la mise en place d'un mécanisme de communication entre la demande et l'offre, entre les besoins de la société, de l'économie, de l'environnement, et le système national d'éducation et de formation à travers une chaîne de valeur de production constituée effectivement de la planification, de la production, l'évaluation, notamment les évaluations des acquis d'apprentissage, et bien sûr la certification. Donc c'est un peu ce schéma-là, tout à fait à gauche, on voit effectivement cette actualisation permanente des acquis d'apprentissage à travers les outils de planification qui visent effectivement, comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, d'alimenter un système d'information prospective. Alors, évidemment, tout cela s'appuie sur un certain nombre de dispositions de la loi que nous tentons de mettre en œuvre. L'objectif, in fine, c'est de mettre en place des guides référentiels, des guides méthodologiques qui permettent à chacun de mettre en place les normes telles qu'elles seront établies et sur lesquelles nous sommes actuellement en train de travailler. Je vais le présenter dans 2 minutes. L'idée générale, c'est finalement de mettre en place un mécanisme qui rend en fait tout le système agile, c'est-à-dire la capacité d'identifier des acquis d'apprentissage qui sont les traductions des acquis professionnels en périphérie du système d'éducation et de formation par la mise en place d'un mécanisme d'observation de l'adéquation entre l'emploi et les métiers et l'adéquation emploi-formation qui alimente effectivement, je dirais, une, une intelligence centralisée qui va permettre de conjuguer les acquis d'apprentissage fondamentaux, ces acquis d'apprentissage en périphérie pour énoncer les acquis d'apprentissage le long des parcours dans toute l'arborescence du système d'éducation et de formation. Et c'est cette agilité qui est recherchée, puisque chaque fois qu'il y a un changement, ce changement peut retentir le long des parcours d'apprentissage. Les étapes de la transformation du système d'éducation et de formation tel qu'on l'a entrepris, comme j'ai dit, la vision stratégique, qui est finalement qu'une traduction de l'ODD 4, qui est fondée sur 4 piliers, c'est-à-dire l'accès l'accès et l'équité, la qualité et l'apprentissage tout le long de la vie, qui a permis effectivement à travers ce levier de mettre en place une loi programmatique, aujourd'hui une loi qui s'impose à tous et qui propose effectivement un cadre référentiel de qualité décliné, ce cadre référentiel de qualité générique décliné en guide référentiel spécifique des référentiels de normes qualité spécifiques à chaque sous-composante, comme on peut le voir ici. Et ce cadre référentiel de qualité générique, comme on le voit, traduit effectivement l'ensemble des chaînes de valeur de production du système d'éducation de formation à travers la planification, la production à travers une commission d'adaptation qui énonce et répartit les acquis d'apprentissage, comme on l'a vu tout à l'heure, le long des parcours d'apprentissage, un système d'évaluation des acquis qui permet en fait d'évaluer les acquis obtenus par des voies formelles, non formelles et informelles, donc, et ouvrir les voies vers la formation tout le long de la vie, et des mécanismes de certification à travers une instance nationale de validation et de certification qui est la base du système national de certification. Bon, je passe sur l'architecture logique. L'idée, c'est de répondre effectivement, voilà l'objectif auquel on veut aller. Alors, simplement, pour vous donner une idée, c'est un système d'éducation de formation intégré qui est jalonné par l'ensemble des parcours d'apprentissage qui en fait, tout simplement, respire en fonction des besoins qui sont les besoins qui sont identifiés au niveau de la périphérie et qui retentissent le long de ces parcours, mais qui prennent en compte également des acquis d'apprentissage fondamentaux. Et ce sont en fait des équipes multidisciplinaires en des ingénieurs de formation, des pédagogues, des prospectivistes, qui aujourd'hui, réunis au sein de cette commission nationale d'adaptation des curricula, qui existe, qui a été mise en place, qui travaille pour répartir ces acquis d'apprentissage le long des parcours. Voilà, je vous remercie pour votre attention et je reste à votre disposition pour toutes les questions que vous souhaitez poser.
Merci beaucoup, c'est Mohamed, pour cette très intéressante présentation. Bien sûr, il y a beaucoup de choses très intéressantes que je vais essayer de plus ou moins résumer. I would like to translate just the main ideas which were presented by Mr. Mohamed Slassi. He indeed talked about, in general, about the obstacles which hinder this collaboration between higher education and vocational education. And he gave some statistics about enrollment in higher education versus enrollment in vocational education, and pointed out to the fact that there is a kind of contradictory picture because we expect more people to be enrolled in trainings which lead straight to the labor market, but we see that there are more people in higher education than in vocational education. And he also said that the educational system is fragmented and does not allow the creation of bridges between higher education and debate. And there is also an issue concerning governance. governance because there is a lack of planning and regulation, and also the absence of guidance and information. So there is in Morocco a national qualification system, which he thinks is not operational. And also standards in higher education are not based on skills, but are based on learning outcomes, which is a classic approach. And concerning life learning in Morocco, there are efforts in order to improve this provision in a way that we will have vet, technical education, higher education, literacy, and literacy efforts combining together to create a good lifelong learning mechanism. And also there are now some efforts in order to establish a mechanism for ensuring communication between higher education and vocational education. He said that this reform started in 2015 with the three main milestones. So in 2015, the establishment of the strategy. In 2019, the creation of the regulatory framework. And in 2024, the production of a guide to quality standards. He also mentioned the issue, the question of generic pedagogic norms that is being put in place, and the efforts to create an integrated training system. I'm sorry, Mohammed, you have said way more interesting things, but this is what I could take as notes. Of course, the presentation can be shared with our participants. So we are going to open the discussion again, but before that, I have a contribution from Sonia Amrosi from Tunisia. She says that in Tunisia, there is no link between vocational training and higher education. But what's good is that graduates are switching to vocational training courses to boost their employability. For our institute, IMSET Tunisia, for example, we have drawn up agreements with academic partners in France to obtain university diplomas for BTS. BTS, it's a degree of technicians, higher technician diplomas. The aim is to make vocational training a choice and not a plan B. We also need to encourage career centers and project incubators. Thank you very much, Sonia. Umuhan from ETF. She says that I think we should also consider other sociological aspects of the decisions made by young graduates in taking up or not the available job offers, in particular the working conditions in the workplace, private sector versus public sector, and wages set to determine the opinions of graduates and families to make their future-related decisions. First, to our experts, do you have any comments to make about Sonia's opinion about what is happening in Tunisia in terms of the attraction of vocational education? She said that the effort is not for vocational education to become a plan B, but I mean a plan A. Do you have any comments about this? Anyone can take the floor from our experts, but some mics are off. Can you hear me?
Yes, Najib, we can hear you.
So I'm just asked maybe Giuseppe or Aziz or Sylvia to comment on Sonia's opinion about Tunisia.
Yes, I can contribute.
Yeah.
Again, for me, it's like I answered Maher, and also with respect to what Si Mohammed Slassi presented this opposite, needs of the labor market with respect of the importance of the higher education versus vocational education and training. I really think that that even higher education should provide graduates for the labor market. So we should not think that VET it's the only provider for the labor market. So this is the idea, is that VET, and they are doing, but not enough, as Si Mohamed Sassi explains. So we rather to say it's not a plan B, etc. In my opinion, we need to support the higher education in order to follow the needs of the labor market as well. And like this, we are both VET and higher education answering the labor market needs. This is my opinion.
Thank you, Aziz. Sylvia?
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted indeed to add something, and I perfectly agree with Aziz that the TVET sector should not be the only solution, but the solution is to collaborate together, higher education and TVET. Perhaps what is important also from my experience is to maximize maybe the existence of international networks of VET providers, to offer opportunities for cooperation, partnership. So also to learn from each other how we can indeed increase this kind of collaboration. We know that also TVET in Tunisia, compared to maybe some years ago, is growing, and also they are trying to let's say to internationalize their sector, even if with very small activities or with very small funding. So I believe that it's important also to align maybe the TV sector with an internationalized dimension that could also bring maybe more insights and more input from abroad on how to increase employability in dialogue, in always in synergy with higher education. So I believe it's hands work that should be done from both ministries in case of Tunisia, but I will say in general in the countries. So to ensure this connection between the two sector, between the TVET and higher education, I will say.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Of course, you know the region very well. So we have Abdelwahid Kushih from Morocco. He says, hello, everyone. In my opinion, the first skill that our students must develop is adaptability. Also, since we are talking about supply and demand, we are in a market logic of need to satisfy. I think that a marketing approach is necessary, which begins with the study of the needs of the labor market in a continuous way to adapt the supply of skills to the demand and the needs of companies. So in this case, if I understood well the opinion, we should apply marketing tools to the labor market. Do you agree with Abdel Wahid? Monsieur Slazy, est-ce que vous êtes d'accord avec Abdel Wahid? The use of marketing tools to study the labor market. L'utilisation des outils du marketing pour l'étude du marché de l'emploi.
Alors, je pense que qui doit faire ce travail-là? Et cela suppose qu'il y a une connaissance qui est déjà présente et que l'on va effectivement promouvoir, je dirais, des formations pertinentes pour répondre à cette connaissance du marché. Donc, la question mérite d'être inversée, c'est-à-dire, une fois que nous avons les besoins, on peut faire de la promotion des besoins vers le système d'éducation et de formation. Le problème, c'est qu'il y a une absence totale des besoins du marché du travail. Il n'y a pas. Le problème, c'est cette opacité énorme, je dirais, surtout de la part des PME et des TPE qui représentent 98% du tissu du marché du travail, qui n'ont pas de visibilité. Et à partir de là, il est difficile, effectivement, de délivrer une prescription. Donc, la question, quand on parle de dialogue, moi, je commence à réfuter le mot dialogue ou concertation. Je m'excuse et je vais expliciter ce que je dis. On n'est pas il n'y a pas de dialogue. Chacun doit avoir une tâche à réaliser. C'est une chaîne de valeur. Il doit y avoir une demande qui doit être élaborée, exprimée et continuellement mise à jour. C'est ça, et qui soit traduite en prescription des acquis d'apprentissage à tous les niveaux de certification. D'accord? Un acquis d'apprentissage, c'est une information structurée qui dit qu'est-ce que l'apprenant sait, comprend et est capable de faire à l'issue d'un parcours d'apprentissage pour occuper une activité élémentaire d'un métier. Et donc, ça, c'est quelque chose qui est assimilable et compréhensible. Donc, il faut que ce travail se fasse et qu'il soit ensuite largement diffusé auprès de ceux qui produisent. C'est le cahier des charges, en réalité, permanent, qui est délivré et en permanence actualisé. Pour qu'il y ait une véritable communication de part et d'autre, et donc c'est une approche entre pairs, entre les acteurs de la demande et les acteurs de l'offre. Et imaginer des mécanismes plus agiles pour répondre à la demande qui est en mutation permanente, qui est versatile et en mutation permanente, pour sortir effectivement de système cet environnement volatile, incertain et complexe. Donc, il faut qu'on puisse, on dit, linéariser la situation. Une vision court terme, bien exprimée, avec des outils qui permettent de répondre dans ce terme aux besoins et puis avancer pas à pas. C'est un peu ça la démarche qui privilégie notamment ce concept d'apprentissage tout le long de la vie en réalité. Et
Du coup, donc,
fondé sur les acquis d'apprentissage. Donc, concertation, dialogue, évidemment, mais avant, il faut que chacun fasse le travail. Chacun doit faire son travail. Hein? Chacun doit faire son job.
Je peux
Merci
répondre,
beaucoup.
Moti?
Oui, monsieur Kouché.
Voilà, je me présente, je suis professeur Abdelwahid Kouchih de la faculté de droit de Casablanca. Donc, je vais intervenir en français pour qu'on se comprenne, moi et notre camarade, notre collègue. L'approche marketing, je pense qu'elle doit émaner des institutions et surtout du ministère de l'Éducation, du ministère du Travail, parce que nous avons une base de données des entreprises, d'accord? Et ces entreprises, on peut les communiquer à travers le CGM, à travers beaucoup d'associations, des PME, etc., pour étudier le marché. Et je pense qu'une approche marketing, c'est une approche parce qu'il ne faut pas oublier que maintenant, le marketing, il devient une approche et une discipline tout terrain. Tout le monde doit faire une approche marketing pour étudier, puisqu'on sommes dans une logique marché, pour étudier le besoin de ce marché. Moi, je ne pense pas qu'on parle de marché de travail, parce que pour moi, le marché de travail, c'est une fausse notion. On parle de marché de compétences. L'étudiant, il n'est pas en train de chercher un travail, l'étudiant, il est en train de vendre une compétence qu'on lui a apprise, qu'on lui a inculquée. Donc, je pense que c'est aux établissements, ça veut dire c'est l'entreprise, c'est l'offreur, c'est celui qui offre, qui doit étudier le besoin de son client. Les clients ici, ce sont les entreprises. Donc, c'est au ministère, aux universités et à tout établissement de formation de faire une étude de marché en contactant directement, il y a des bureaux d'études, donc contactant directement les intéressés qui sont les entreprises pour étudier leurs besoins. Également, il ne faut pas oublier que nous sommes dans un monde de changement. La seule chose qui ne change pas, c'est le changement. La seule chose qui reste constante, c'est le changement. Donc moi, je pense qu'il faut apprendre à nos étudiants, la première compétence qu'ils doivent avoir, c'est une compétence d'adaptabilité, qu'il faut que l'étudiant soit adaptable. Parce que tous les métiers sont censés disparaître un jour, sont censés connaître un chamboulement, un changement un jour. Donc c'est pour cela que une approche marketing, je pense qu'elle est très louable dans ce sens. Parce qu'il faut étudier les besoins, il ne faut pas offrir une formation, il ne faut pas développer des compétences chez nos étudiants à l'aveuglette, sans une étude des besoins du consommateur qui est les entreprises, qu'elles soient grandes ou petites. Donc merci M. Hamouti. Voilà.
Merci à vous, cher professeur. Monsieur Kouchi, he's a member of the Skills Lab network of experts. He has been member for 2 years now, and we thank him for his loyalty. Maybe we don't have questions from the audience, but If you want to come out after this interesting webinar with a picture about rosy, if you like, perspective about collaboration or pathways of vocational education in higher education, I would like to challenge the speaker say, for example, that maybe higher education itself should talk to itself, because they have vocational pathways which they don't consider as vocational pathways. If I don't know if my idea is clear now, and Mr. Slassi and also Ms. Jawani, I think they talked about the fragmentation. So, for example, in some countries, you have the vocational education agency offering kind of highway, sorry, not highway, higher education degree, Bac plus 2, baccalaureate, 2 years after baccalaureate with a degree of technician, and higher education is doing the same thing. So you have if like schizophrenia, two ministries, Ministry of Vocational Education offering degrees, and which are not higher education, but which are in their essence higher education. Is this something that we should promote as a higher education talking to itself, if you like, before it talks to vet? Mr. Yes, Aziz, can you? I see that you already.
No, this is the reality, unfortunately, of a lot of countries in the region. So one of the problems of this is a little complicated, but you know, the problem is that we have what we call the national classification of occupation in practically all the countries, national classification of occupations. And then we have the occupational standards, not in all countries. In Morocco, for example, because we have SLESI and we have the REMREC, what you call the REMREC, means these are standards for competencies and trades and professions. The problem is that the countries are not using this classification because in addition to what you said, for example, in Morocco, we have BTS and technicien spécialisé. They are in the same, for the same profession, but providing different learning outcomes in different contexts, etc. So again, a problem of harmonization. If the country use what we call the national classification for each country, and now we have the possibility to link it to ESCO. ESCO, it's also an occupational standard, European one, that in addition to the occupational standard that our countries are linked to, which is called ISCO, International Classification of Occupations. ESCO, in addition, they link the professions to the skills, which is a lot disadequation between the profession and the skills. And the country needs to oblige all the providers to follow this. I think the main problem is this, because we create this classification, but we don't use it in most of the countries in the region. And now we have also the opportunity again to link it to ESCO, which add directly and link directly the profession to the skills. So I think this one of the problems in our region.
Thank you, Aziz. And I would like to go back to Sylvia. Aziz talked about the fact that we have norms and standards which are created, like the national occupation standards. So this need to standardize and to align people on the same strategies and regulations. And you focused on your presentation on career guidance and career services. Do you fancy that we can have the same system of career guidance and career services, the same one for vocational education, as well as for higher education? And can they be different if we think about the fact that they are the same?
Yeah, Thank you for the question. Well, I'm not supporting the idea that one model fits all in general. So I always believe that we need to tailor the approach within its context. So even if, as we have said a lot since this morning, that sector and higher education have the same goal, so to provide more opportunities for employability for youth and graduates, they are different sectors and they have their own context. And specifically in each countries and in each institution, we shall serve so the needs and the real needs of the local context. So I will not say that we have to adopt the same structure, the same system. Of course, each country needs to have its own strategy to which the institution from both vet sector and higher education should align. But then definitely, in my perspective, they should try to define its own system based on their criteria, based on their specificities. And this is, I think, very important. In the study that we conducted for the ETF on career guidance in the 4 countries I mentioned, we saw some similarities. We saw some common features, of course, but then the 4 countries align with their strategies for the national strategies about career guidance. And definitely there are some common elements also among and between, let's say, TVET and higher education institution. But I would encourage a more tailored approach within the specificity of the country in both sectors. This will not prevent, of course, the communication, and we have talked about a lot of communication and dialogue, but definitely, as also Professor Slassi said, its own sector should make its own job, and so collaboration and cooperation, it's important within its context and specificities, according my perspective.
Yes, just to comment on this, you have been very active in the Mediterranean region, and you talked about strategy and vision. Have you noticed that there is an established strategy and the framework for career guidance in these countries?
No, for the countries that we tackled, especially Tunisia, we said Jordan, Lebanon, and Algeria, there is no a specific clear strategies on career guidance, and the universities perhaps they are working in an isolated way and try to do their best in the field. So definitely a strategy would be needed in this field. And also the work that we have done in the career guidance review was helpful for the universities in order to express indeed this need of strategy at the national level. So this is, I think, one of the main crucial points that we should work on in the next future.
Thank you. Si Mohamed, yes, vous avez levé la main.
Oui, merci de me donner la parole parce que je souhaitais clarifier mes propos sur la question du dialogue et de la concertation. Encore une fois, le dialogue et la concertation ne doit pas doit se situer à un autre niveau, pas au niveau de la consultation des besoins, je dirais, aller chercher de l'information, essayer de communiquer, de savoir quels sont les besoins auxquels je peux répondre. Elle doit se situer à un niveau du dialogue pour réconcilier les états d'esprit de chacun, les visions, la culture que chacun, la culture générale. Aujourd'hui, je le vis parce que je suis au conseil, qui est un environnement, conseil d'éducation et de formation, qui est un environnement multi-acteurs et qui est dominé par les acteurs qui sont les acteurs qui animent l'offre de formation et moi ceux de la demande. Et je vois je dirais, l'étendue du gap en termes de vision et de culture entre le monde de l'éducation et le monde du travail, le monde du marché du travail. C'est-à-dire que le monde de l'éducation considère que la tâche lui revient, c'est sa responsabilité de former et de former correctement, pas former pour être un outil utilitaire au service du grand capital et de l'économie marchande. C'est ça la vraie réalité. Et pour le dire crûment, c'est très difficile aujourd'hui de vaincre cette vision. Je comprends leur responsabilité qui est la leur. Je ne dis pas qu'ils considèrent à juste titre qu'ils ont cette responsabilité de former quelqu'un d'universel qui répond à plusieurs nécessités, pas simplement la nécessité d'être inséré sur le marché du travail. Ce que je comprends. Mais d'un autre côté, il faut qu'ils se rapprochent de la vision, de la nécessité aujourd'hui de former les gens pour des besoins et que ce soit des besoins qui soient clairement identifiés et que ces besoins de toute façon sont devenus, la compétence est un bien immatériel qui est bien matériel volatile. Et donc, il faut recourir à un système d'information qui soit mis à jour en permanence et des mécanismes de communication et de dialogue, je dirais, du point de vue du process, entre process, pour que ça puisse fonctionner. Et c'est là où doit se passer le dialogue, à mon sens. C'est pour qu'on puisse converger sur une même vision, sur un même objectif et co-construire un sens commun.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur. C'est vraiment très intéressant. Dommage qu'on n'a pas beaucoup de temps parce que cette question de dialogue et concertation de point de vue terminologique, c'est très important à fixer. So, dear experts, participants, and guests, this is the end of our webinar. So, I would like to give the floor to Cristiana Burzo, the coordinator of the Skills Lab network of experts, for the final words.
Thanks a lot, Najib, and thanks a lot to everyone for the discussion, for the presentations first, and for the lively discussion. I would like to really thank the speakers because they have shared with us today a huge amount of knowledge, extremely relevant for the network's topics. A number of crucial issues have emerged, which, by the way, are valid for all the countries and regions in which the European Training Foundation works, as well as in the member states. I take two as a key major points for further reflection, which are, on one side, career guidance, which we know being crucial to help students orientated in the world of future work. The issues of attractiveness, vocational education and training. It's again an issue which is addressed in many countries we work to, because sometimes the reputation is not corresponding to what in reality it helps for ensuring employability. So really a number of issues which have been tackled and discussed. And I wish to thank really all participants for the questions that they have put forward, for the discussion, for Najib for moderating this discussion, and also for interpretation support as well. Thank you, Najib, for keeping us on track with the timing. I thank my colleagues, Sabina, who is the ETF Regional Focal Point for SEMED region, and Aziz, for participating and also providing intellectual support for preparing this event. As I have already mentioned in the chat box, we will make available all the materials from today in ETF Open Space. So there will be the webinar recording, the PowerPoint presentations, and as well as a short summary from the discussion. And once we have all ready, we will send a message to all network members from the region and the speakers as well, so that you can, of course, further disseminate across your networks together with further information regarding the network itself. So thank you once more. Thank you really so much. It was really a pleasure being with you this morning, and I wish you a good rest of the day and of the week. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Merci.